one of Canada's, indeed the world's smartest investors in precious metal mining companies is the Canadian Eric Sprott. And one of his favourite stocks is the Canadian-based gold mining company, Kirkland Gold, where he has been chairman since 2015. The company's president and CEO is Tony Makuch, who is here to speak to us today. That background says a lot about Tony, but there's more. Looking at Kirkland Gold's share price on its home exchange, Toronto, one sees a steady upward trend over the last 5 years. And in the last 2 years in particular, in Tony's time, the price has nearly quadrupled. Kirkland Gold was also named the top performing stock on the Standard & Poor's TSX Composite Index for the full year 2017. That all speaks volumes about Tony. Kirkland Gold in Tony's 2 years has grown strongly as a low-cost producer. It has a workforce of over 550 employees with operating mines in Canada and Australia. Regarded as a mid-tier producer, it is targeting over 670,000 ounces of gold production in 2018. But on top of those figures re-production, the Australian entity of Kirkland Gold has just been awarded this year's Digger Award at this year's Diggers and Dealers event in Kalgoorlie. Tony was there to receive the great award. It was one for a rapid increase in gold production. The 2017 year saw a record-breaking 596,405 ounces. It represents a 90% increase on 2016. The production increase was achieved at the Fosterville mine, which, as you no doubt know, is just a short distance out from Bendigo. Tony's background is that of a mining engineer with over 30 years of experience in both building and operating mines around the world. Prior to Kirkland Gold, he has held CEO and other senior positions in mining companies. In 2015, he was nominated the Mining Journal America's CEO of the Year and was Top Gun Turnaround CEO designation in the Brendan Wood International Press. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Tony Makuch.
Thank you. I really appreciate that introduction. Sometimes, especially when you get the sense of, somebody says 30 years experience, and I'm adding my head, and you say, "Geez, I used to not even be 30 years old." It kind of gets above yourself. Before I start, I do want to make one recognition again. I know we sit here on some traditional lands, and same as the mines that we have at Fosterville and what we're doing in Northern Territory, and the work that we're doing and investment we've made in the Pilbara and a lot of the Indigenous lands, and we really appreciate the opportunity and the trust that we have in terms of sharing, in terms of development. And I also want to acknowledge, I know it was acknowledged, but both Chief Sonny Batiste from the Matachewan First Nation and Brian Gelinas from the Waugashig First Nation have come down here. I say miigwech. Thank you for coming. We're here more for trying to find ways we can bring back sustainable business development back to Canada from Australia, and we see some really neat opportunities here. And so that's part of why we're here. But we also respect and the opportunity and the trust they've given us in terms of development on the lands we have back in Canada. I also, get the chance, and like I say, I'm honored to also have the opportunity to get to talk to you. And it is, I guess, when you come here, you get a sense it is a friendly audience. It's mining people, and no matter where you are in the world, mining people. I think we're the good guys. we probably don't always get credit for being that, but definitely, in terms of what we're doing and the opportunity to tell you a lot of the exciting things that's happening with Fosterville in the state of Victoria. I think that's something. Richard Moore, thanks for the invitation to speak today, and I got the chance to meet Sir R.V. Parbo, and Western Mining and the company. I mean, it was a company when I was younger. Was you look up to things. You try to watch what other people are doing, and definitely you get a sense from the leadership and the vision and what was done in terms of building the Australian mining industry, and and coming here from another foreign country, coming to Australia and being given that opportunity, it's something it's part of what the kind of people we have in our industry, but it gets to show you the quality of the countries and stuff that we develop in. Also, maybe in terms of my little bit of experience I have now in the mining industry and seeing what you do in Australia and seeing the things that have been set up, and I know Western Mining and RV, you probably, we're the leaders in terms of building this, but what I've seen so far is the Australian miner and the Australian mining industry is second to no one in the world, and so you should be very, very proud of what you have and what you have accomplished. I'll give you a little bit of background on myself before I get too far into it. My father, he immigrated to Canada from Poland in 1927. That was during the financial crisis after the First World War. And one thing he had told me about what was happening in terms of devaluation of currencies is that there's only two things you should really count on, and when you're doing investing and count on in the world, and that's gold and land, right? And you try to stay with that. My father, he worked as an underground miner for over 35 years in Timmins. My wife's father, by the way, he also worked almost 40 years in the gold mines in Kirkland Lake in Timmins. So, I was born into this industry. My father talked to me about doing something else, being a dentist. I said, well, I knew what I was getting into. I guess maybe sometimes some people might say you should have known better, but I think this is a great industry. For myself, everything I have has come from gold mining. I did do a lot of different mines, jobs in underground mines, and one of the jobs I started out with, I remember I had a clean track underground. We had a slime spill. I was working, and you're talking about 18-inch gauge track, and I'm shoveling, and I had a 1-ton Hudson car, and I had to put the shovel into that 1-ton car. When you filled the car, you had to push it back to the waste pass and dump it down the waste pass, as long as there was some extra muck in the pass. And I remember doing that, and the muck sticks to your shovel when you're trying to dump it in, and it sticks to the car. And I remember the mine captain one time coming by, seeing me work there, and you're all dirty, full of mud, and it's kind of fun. But he looked at me and he said, "Hey, young fella," he said, "you better go stay in school." So, But I've been able to do every job in the mine, and I've enjoyed them all, and I really, really think this is a great business and a great business to be in, and again, it's great to be here in terms of the Melbourne Mining Club, and with that, we should just at one point in time the contribution of mining people like RV, my family, people who have courage and everything to build on the industry. I think it's really, really great. It's also sort of a testament to, and being a Canadian, having the opportunity to come here and talk to you in Australia. It gives you a sense that, the countries of both Australia and Canada, as somebody told me a couple of years ago coming here, said we're cousins, right? We're two countries, we got a lot in common. Immigration, foreign policy, free trade, democracy. We focus on prosperity and quality of life by through openness and empowerment rather than exclusion and isolation. I think that's important, and you can try to put a little one-liners in here, but definitely one trumps the other, I believe. Anyway, looking at Kirkland Lake Gold, we're a company of parallels where we own two of the world's highest grade gold mines. We're based in two of the most renowned gold mining regions in the world, and I think we're located in two of the greatest gold mining countries here in Australia and Canada. What's neat, and I've said to people coming here, is that they're on, it's on complete opposite ends of the world. But as when I first went underground at Fosterville to see what was happening, and when New York banker asked me, well, he said, I don't understand why you would want to go to Australia. How, there's no synergies. How are you going to manage it? And I just said, if I close my ears, everybody's working the same way. Actually, and sorry, also, I'm the only one I think that doesn't have an accent here, by the way. But we've already achieved Kirkland Lake significant growth since we put the new company together in 2016. And that was what we did in 2016. We did the acquisition of St. Andrews Goldfields, which had mines in the north side of Kirkland Lake, and Newmarket Gold. And with that, as was discussed earlier, we went from producing 155,000 ounces of gold in 2015 to just under 600,000 ounces last year. And the exciting part is we have, with our current plans, with organic growth in the company, we expect to grow to over 1 million ounces of gold within the next 5 to 6 years. And we're saying 5 to 6 years, and we have investor relations talk about forward-looking statements. We're going to work towards beating that. But I think the other part, and one important part of what we do, and we definitely mine gold, but we have to be a profitable company. And within Kirkland Lake Gold, we are a low-cost producer. With that, we were able to generate $110 million of earnings, $110 million of free cash flow. We have the company's well set up financially. We have $300 million US of cash. We have no debt. And most importantly, we can finance all of our growth from the existing cash that we have and still continue to build our financial strength. So, we're aggressive in reinvesting in what we're doing and really building value. The two high-grade mines that I mentioned, earlier, it's the Fosterville mine here in Victoria, and we have the Macassa mine in Northern Ontario in Canada. We acquired Fosterville in November 2016, as I mentioned earlier, through the acquisition of Newmarket Gold. And with that deal, we also got the Cosmo mine in the Northern Territory, and the Union Reefs mill up in the Northern Territory, and the Stall mine here in Victoria. I see Hugh Morgan here with the Stall mine. We recently sold the Stall mine and to Hugh Morgan, and the group led by Hugh Morgan. And we still retain an interest in the area, both through royalty and a strategic investment. And we feel very strongly that they're going to be successful in terms of what they're doing there. The Northern Territory operations right now are in care and maintenance, and what we're doing there is we've got a very aggressive exploration program. We're having some significant success. We have some of the geologists, some of the people here here at this luncheon. I can say, without giving away too much, I think we're onto something really special here, and I think we're gonna surprise the market with a new approach, new discoveries, and a restart of operations at the Northern Territory. The Fosterville mine, I guess I shouldn't have to say it's located just out of Bendigo, and most of you will know about Fosterville from the discoveries, and it's been mining since the 1850s, so definitely a long history of mining. And I understand that this coming in here today, that this town hall building was actually built from gold. The original funding for this building was from gold from mining around Bendigo. It gives you a sense of what we do in a gold mining. Growing up in Timmins, we're the ones who paid for building all those high rises on Bay Street. But when we acquired Fosterville in 2016, the mine had 244,000 ounces in mineral reserves, and the grade was 7 grams per ton. From then to now, we've mined or produced over 450,000 ounces of gold at average grades of over 15 grams per ton. And we still have 1.7 million ounces of mineral reserves at 23 grams per ton, as well as a large resource base, significant exploration upside. So you can see this is a great turnaround and success story, and it's really the people that have turned it around and been successful. It's not us. It's the people at Fosterville. These people have been there for a long time, and they work hard, and you're just happy to help them be successful. In 2016, for instance, the mine produced 150,000 ounces of gold. Last year, the full year production on the Kirkland Lake Gold produced over 260,000 ounces of gold. And by 2020, we at Fosterville, and it's the management, everybody's on board with that. We expect to increase annual production here to over 400,000 ounces of gold. Besides the great turnaround in production at Fosterville, so you get the increase in production, but also costs have come down, and all-in sustaining costs are around $600 an ounce. Cash costs at Fosterville are less than $250 an ounce. It's a world-class mine. It's with no byproduct credits, and you can, you look at it, you say that, nobody else does this anywhere else in the world. And think about it. It's right in the middle of a modern area that we found this. We didn't have to go to the jungles of Central America or climb some mountain in Peru to find it. The earnings at Fosterville Lake would cost, and I mean, some of the most important things is we have to be a business, and we have to earn money. Pre-tax earnings at Fosterville in the first half of the year were just shy of 100 million US. And the good news is that by the time we reach, so get a sense, by the time we reach over 400,000 ounces of annual production at Fosterville, unit costs will be lower. And that supports even higher margins, so people should really look at this as a good investment, increased profitability, and fundamentally a growing contribution to the local communities in the state of Victoria. When we acquired Newmarket Gold, I mean, and somebody might ask me, well, why did we come down here and acquire Newmarket Gold? It was, the biggest thing was when we came here in August of 2016, and I was with Quentin Henning of Novo Resources. You could see that there was an improving trend at Fosterville. It had really started in 2015, and you got the sense that the grades were going to be significantly better. I can't tell you myself that I thought the grades were going to be as good as they are. We thought they were going to get better. They've gotten even better than we thought. The Lower Phoenix system, they had discovered what's called the Eagle Zone, which is the change in mineralization somewhere around 800 meters below surface. Since the mines discovered what's called the Swan Zone, which currently has 1.2 million ounces of reserves at 61 grams per ton. The reserve is going to increase. I would say again this year. In fact, and you get a sense. We've seen put out some encouraging drill results last week. That you get a sense on the type of conversion we're going to have at Fosterville this year. The key to Fosterville's rebirth, it was the discovery of the new mineralizing event at depth, and But if you just go take a little bit of a history of what Fosterville was. So early production here was mining the oxide ores exposed at surface. When the mining, whether it was open pit or there was some historic shafts, etc., put in. When they got to this refractory ore, all the mining stopped. Well, Fosterville was started back in 2004-2005 as an underground mine, now accessing into the sulfide mineralization or the double refractory ore, and mined down plunge extension was called the Phoenix and the Harrier systems. At the same time, and really what allowed Fosterville mining to take place was a biox plant or a bioleaching plant was built on site, and to sort of break down the atomic structure, break down the sulfide complex, and get the gold out of that. The mine, the mine has worked well. Produced over 100,000 ounces a year for quite some time, and getting metallurgical recovery is 80-85%. So the mine was working well. And the grades are 4.5 to 5 grams per ton, and so you get a sense that it's not. Depending on price of gold, it's okay, but it's not really creating value. But in 2016, as I said, when we recognized that change in mineralization, and what it is visible gold in quartz veins. This slide here, they slide both the slide with showing you the core, as well as the slide, the inset on the bottom. You can get the sense that we go from this sulfide mineralization that's double refractory to all of a sudden you got these flooding of quartz veins into the sulfide mineralization, and you get bonanza grades. We've had several grades averaging thousands of grams per ton, right, over several meters. With the change in grade, so we have this biox plant. The mill has been modified now. We have 2 gravity circuits on the mill. So metallurgical recovery now sit somewhere between, or went from mid 80% to with biox over 95% now, and the gravity recovered gold is expected now that we get anywhere from 25 to 50%. So the plant at Fosterville, besides being, it's a very complex BIOX plant, but it's also one of the best performing or conventional mills. So as a metallurgist, it's got to be one of the best places to work. And in spite of all this, so in spite of the fact that grades quadrupled, recoveries of increased 10 to 15%, and we get the gold faster and easier. You know, the most exciting part about Fosterville is the host of other targets that are there, and you know the opportunity that can you know, in terms of maybe we still haven't found the real gold deposit yet at Fosterville. We've had, you know, significant additions, visible gold in other locations. Maybe I'll turn now just to Macassa, just to give you a sense of what's going on in back in Canada, in Kirkland Lake. Macassa is an historic mine, but like you know, but in terms of Macassa, it's almost its present is driven, its future in terms of Macassa. There's a new discovery at Macassa. Give you a sense, Kirkland Lake here, you've been mining along the main breaks of 20 million ounces of gold, the main and the 04 breaks. It's about a 5-mile strike length, and mining's been down to about 7,000 feet at Macassa. Some of the thoughts at Macassa is that in the past here, in the Kirkland Lake camp, was gold's only along the main break of the 04 break, so don't look anywhere else for gold, you're not going to find it. You know, with the gold prices were depressed in the late 90s, early 2000s, and Fox Point Resources, which formed themselves into Kirkland Lake Gold Inc. before we became Kirkland Lake Gold Limited, they purchased the closed mines, the whole Kirkland Lake camp from Kinross Gold for $5 million. Most people thought that they paid too much, and I had worked there before, so even myself, I thought maybe they paid too much. But in 2007, just around 2007, they came up with a discovery called the South Mine Complex. It's a hanging wall system, a system coming off the hanging wall of the main and 04 breaks. It's somewhere around 5,300 feet from surface, but it extends, you know, about a kilometer east of the shaft, or sorry, a kilometer from the shaft and to the hanging wall side, and at least 1.5 kilometers east of the shaft. And the whole exploration theory is maybe we go all the way back to 5 miles across the camp. It's a very high-grade mine, deposit. It's growing. We've announced last year a major extension of the South Mine Complex, almost 260 meters further to the east. The current resources at Macassa total over 4 million ounces at over 20 grams per ton. So not a bad buy for $5 million. Shows you between Fosterville and Macassa, you know, the ability, you know, to keep exploring, and what you might be finding. I'll say that's the, you know, big opportunity at Stall and other places. Last year, Macassa produced 194,000 ounces of gold. You know, over the next 5 to 6 years, we expect to double annual production to over 400,000 ounces of gold. But to reach that level of production in Macassa, it's going to come from doubling throughput. We have a mill that's currently at 2,000 tons a day. We have a mine and a shaft, a number 3 shaft, that's got a hoisting capability that limits our ore hoisting to about 1,000 tons a day. So we're sinking a new shaft at Macassa. It's a number 4 shaft, it's called. It's going to double our hoisting capacity, double our production to over 2,000 tons a day. You know, the shaft itself is 21-foot diameter, circular concrete line, 7,000 feet deep, single lift. Bring an ore to surface at, you know, so 4,000 tons per day minimum hoisting capability. It's going to cost us $320 million US to build it over. You know, we should be completely done by 2023. It's a major investment for the company, and it's also a major investment for the community of Kirkland Lake. Kirkland Lake had gone through a period of time of definitely, contraction in terms of the community. So it's really helped Kirkland Lake. But Kirkland Lake is just coming into its 100th anniversary of gold mining in Kirkland Lake, and you get a sense with after 100 years, you have a new discovery. We're sinking a new shaft, a brand new shaft, and we're building a brand new mine in Kirkland Lake. And you know, with all that, I mean, by the way, Macassa did reach a milestone this year where it produced its 5 millionth ounce of gold. So it's now the second biggest producer in the Kirkland Lake camp, after just surpassed the Red Hargraves mine, and there's only the Lakeshore mine, which has 8 million ounces of production, which we fully expect to beat as well. One other thing, that we have at Macassa, and it's sort of part of the culture in Kirkland Lake, but we at Macassa, our underground production fleet is all battery-powered electric vehicles. We're not trying to be the Tesla of underground mining, meaning we don't want to spend $1 billion before we figure out how to make it work. But we're working aggressively at that. We've just introduced our second generation of battery-powered vehicles. So we have some scoop trams or some muckers that are very effective, real high torque and really good. And we've introduced now the first 40-ton battery-powered truck. A lot of people are talking about it. We actually do it. Our fleet of equipment and our production at Macassa comes from battery-powered equipment. And like Fosterville, Macassa is also a low-cost mine. Our all-in sustaining costs at Macassa about $750 US an ounce. When we double throughput at Macassa, by the time we get to 2022, 2023, we're going to see costs similar to what's happening at Fosterville. So you get a sense that what the value that Kirkland Lake Gold and the innovation and the exploration success can really bring to the economy and to people. And with both Fosterville and Macassa reaching 400,000 to 500,000 ounces of gold annual, you can get a sense of it. And I mentioned earlier that the company is we're working towards producing 1 million ounces of gold annually. And again, this is going to be even lower cost than now. So definitely a lot of ability to create value for shareholders and value for people. Hopefully that's a good enough overview of our main assets and growth plans. Maybe I'll spend a little bit of time talking about some key success drivers for the operations and our company. The first is an extensive commitment to exploration. One of the things I learned, and again, in terms of watching from WMC and Sir R.V. Parbo's leadership at Western Mining. Western Mining was known as a leader in exploration. The company invested heavily in diamond drilling as one of the first mining companies anywhere to have a standalone exploration team. Well, we share that commitment to leadership and exploration, and it is a core competency of Kirkland Lake Gold. In fact, if you look at the logo on Kirkland Lake Gold, you see the circles, and when we tried to pick a new logo in 2016, the circles on this represents a diamond drill bit that's spitting off gold flakes from the diamond drill, because we really recognize that this is going to really create a lot of value for it. In terms of our global exploration budget in 2018, its total is 90 million US, or about 120 million Australian. But of that amount, 3/4 of it is being spent here in Australia. There's no shortage of targets here anywhere, but especially here in Australia for the exploration teams, and are excited about what we're going to find. And to give you some sense at Fosterville, and you get the sense at what can happen at the NT. We have a slide here to try to give you the extent of the commitment of our exploration, how it compares to our peers. And you can see, we're not the biggest mining company here, but you show that our planned exploration spend in 2018 per ounce of production compares us to all the major gold producers, and you can see that we're leading in this area. And if you go to this next slide, being committed to investing in exploration is one thing, but getting the return for the funds you invest is in another. And if you look at this, which compares this slide, hopefully it comes up, which compares a 2017 discovery costs with the same group of companies, and shows it from exploration spending in terms of resource and reserve additions, the discovery costs of $8 an ounce. If you compare that to the potential of what we discovered, the resources, it's 10 billion Australian. If you look at it just from the reserve category and you look at the margins and what we can produce, it's $4 or $5 billion of new value just created by spending money diamond drilling. So definitely you got a sense we believe in exploration, and we believe in what it can do in terms of creating value effectively from nothing. So with that, I go over at Fosterville, we're spending 50 million Australian exploring. Last year we spent 30 million at Fosterville, and I'll say incidentally, the exploration budget in 2017 at Fosterville, the $30 million, that exceeded the total amount spent on exploration at Fosterville from since 2005, since the mine opened in 2005. So to give you a sense on you know, what you can do. You know, we had the success, but you know, and a lot of people might sit there and say, well, we were lucky in terms of what we did. But what we is a lot of work, hard work, a lot of innovation by the team, people at Fosterville, and you know, so you know, again, people might call it luck. My father told me, you know, you want to get lucky. He said, luck comes from 100% effort, and you've had a lot of effort in terms of the people. In terms of what we're doing at Fosterville this year in the drilling, you know, it's focused on continuing to grow the Swan Zone and investigating other similar structures, looking for extensions as we go to depth, right? And you know, the exciting part is, you know, that we've intersected this high grade visible gold, quartz vein mineralization of visible gold in 3 different areas now at Fosterville. In the Lower Phoenix system, which is Eagle and Swan, over at Harrier, and now 3 kilometers away over at Robbins Hill. So, you know, we just have to keep exploring, and, you know, I think we fully believe there's more to come. We also have, you know, in 2000 exploration program at Fosterville, what we call the LODE, or Large Ore Deposit Exploration Program. It's $10 million, and it's greenfield exploration. So not only are we spending more money in the mine that's ever been spent, but we're spending $10 million just looking outside the mine and doing greenfield stuff, again, in a 150-year-old mining camp. And then, you know, I mentioned that Australia is a big commitment for us for exploration, and we are spending, you know, a lot of money and putting a lot of effort into the Northern Territory. You know, these mines, I mentioned earlier, these mines have been put in care and maintenance, and you know, we're carrying out new exploration programs here. And, you know, some people regard the NT as a dark horse for the company. From our perspective, and maybe it is a dark horse because we're having a lot of exploration success here. And you know, I think over at Cosmo Mine, what we have in the new discovery at Lantern, and now that with Lantern we've drifted into the mineralization and learning a lot about that deposit, where, you know, there's a lot of work now going on over at Union Reefs, drilling underneath all the open pits, old open pits, 3.5, 4 kilometers of open pits, and no drilling below surface, and we're having some significant success. And I know we've set up a goal for ourselves with a 10-year mine plan to produce well over 100,000 ounces a year with attractive economics and reopening of the mine operations here. And, you know, we think we're well on our way to this, and it's going to happen pretty soon. There's also one other very important component of our exploration program here in Australia, and I'd be remiss without talking about the Pilbara. We've made 2 strategic investments in Australia with both Nova Resources and De Grey. Our largest investment is in Nova Resources. You know, from our perspective, and, you know, I was just there again this week. You know, first off, there's gold in the Pilbara. You can pick it up yourself. And we, you know, we believe that the Pilbara has the potential to be an important new discovery. It's going to create a whole new chapter in gold mining in Australia and the world. And I think it's going to, if it is big as what we think it could be, it's going to turn the gold industry upside down. And, you know, we know there's a lot of work to be done here. We know that it's going to take good time to figure it out, but if it turns out to be anything close to what we think it is, we want to be there, and we want to be an active participant, and that's why we're there. The next key driver to success and important for the company is having a focus on long-term value creation, and that's value for all their stakeholders. For a mining company to generate returns for shareholders, careers for its employees, and long-term benefits for communities and other stakeholders, it must be disciplined, and we have to be focused on responsible value creation. At Kirkland Lake Gold, you know, the reason we are aggressively investing in low-cost gold production is that you know, we are a leader and committed to diamond drilling to find new economic deposits, and it's also the reason we have placed 3 mines in care and maintenance over the last 2 years. You know, it's why we have looked for ways to return value to shareholders. You know, last year we introduced the dividend. We increased it twice. We've also have a share buyback plan and repurchased over 5 million shares in 2017. The drive for value in Kirkland Lake is also why we aggressively market the Kirkland Lake name. We're working to build KL Gold as a global brand, and part of that effort was listing on both the New York Stock Exchange and the Australian Stock Exchange last year. In Australia, it's humble beginnings, that in terms of volume of trading, but I think we're going to be working on that. We know we have to work hard on it and get the message out, and we believe things will change, especially as people get fully aware of what the opportunities are. And it's previously mentioned in the introduction that we were the top performing stock on the TSX Composite in 2017. So we weren't just the top performing gold mining company. And gold mining companies around the world, or mining is per se, nobody wants to invest in gold. We were the top performing company in all across all industries. So, our share price, as we talk about share price being up 175%, our share price is up almost 50%. And as you mentioned, we get the Diggers Award, and all these things are good. But just get a sense, and get a sense in terms of who we are and a culture. We recognize that, but we no time we're going to sit on our hands. No signs that we're going to be satisfied with that. Really, what that does is most of it motivates us to stay humble. And the markets can change, things can happen really quickly. So what we have to do is we have to work faster and keep bringing things forward, because there's significant growth in the value of Kirkland Lake Gold and what we can do. And we're driving that with Expiration, we're driving that with operational excellence, we're driving that with innovation. And as we get the market to understand the value, there's going to be more value in the shares. So I truly believe that as an investment, nobody here has missed it yet. The other thing, though, we talk about shareholder value and return to shareholder, but one of the most important key drivers of success is community and social responsibility. As I mentioned to you, I grew up in Timmins, not far from Kirkland Lake. I did live in Kirkland Lake for several years. I worked at Macassa. I was the general manager of the mine there in the 90s. But I can give you a story. I knew my wife one day said to me, I think we've been in Kirkland Lake for a long time, or maybe too long. I said, why? He said, well, I got mail. She said, instead of being made out to Tony Makuch, it was made out to Tony Macassa. So my wife told me, usually you do good in this industry, somebody names a mine after you. I was getting named after the mine. But in Kirkland Lake, though, and same as in NT, in Darwin, we really try to encourage people to go and live in the communities, and we support the communities to get people to take roots there. That's fundamental to what we're doing in Kirkland Lake and the NT in terms of what we're building up. Over at Fosterville here in Victoria, we've already got that. You have a home-based workforce. People have been there for a long time. They've set up roots in Fosterville. We have very little turnover. The people call Ben to go home, and a large percentage of them have worked at the mine since it opened. So getting it, again, from a cultural point of view, why we want to be good members of surrounding communities, and why community and social responsibility is important to us, because we live there ourselves. That's where we're from. It's our home, and it's critical to success going forward, because not only do you need to have a license to operate, you also need a license to expand, and we intend to expand. When you get a sense about Fosterville, and again, it's understanding where we are. It's a diverse community. It's on the edge of a major regional center, Fosterville, or Bendigo, sorry. It's a community. There's wineries, there's farms. There's a wide range of business and cultural interests in the area. It's a community with changing demands and expectations. There's a lot of things we have to do to maintain our strong working relationships with all the neighbors, with all the people, and some of the people think differently. Farming people think differently than mining companies do. We have to recognize that and respect that. But we try to be close with the regulators, and we really work to have positive working relationships with the state of Victoria. So a key component of earning a social license involves ensuring that community benefits from the value we create. At Fosterville, we employ about 500 people. As mentioned previously, almost all of them live in the Bendigo area. So the wages and benefits paid to the people have a total of about $50 million per year, and this is money that stays in the community. We also hire and retrain local contractors. We source equipment and consumables locally whenever possible. If you look at the total operating costs, the total capital costs we're spending in Fosterville this year, and our exploration dollars, it's well over $250 million Australian. A large percentage of those expenditures stay within Victoria, and almost all of them stay within Australia. There's only a couple pieces of equipment that maybe we source from Scandinavia. So I started out by pointing out the parallels within Kirkland Lake Gold and within our two countries, and maybe to recap, I get a sense of Kirkland Lake Gold. We have two of the highest grade, lowest cost gold mines in the world, and both of which are growing. So to get a sense of that, we're bringing a new life to two historic gold mining camps. And we're privileged to operate in two great gold mining countries again that provide stable, predictable regulatory regimes, and countries that provide opportunities for success for those willing to work hard. One other parallel, maybe one thing I would bring up here, it's one of my favorites, is that Australia and Canada have this mutual love of sport. Really get a sense of the love of sports here in Melbourne. The events are not the same, for sure, but in terms of the competitive spirit and the drive to succeed and thrill, it's the same. And I guess one thing I'm not sure if everybody's aware of, but I was delighted to learn that beginning in 2020, the gold from the Melbourne Cup is going to come from Fosterville Gold Mine. So it's going to be Victoria Gold in the Melbourne Cup, and it's a horse race, and again, coming from Canada, you have a different perspectives. But I was at Fosterville last year, experienced the Melbourne Cup for my first time, and I'll tell you, it's truly a great horse racing event and something that really builds community in the country. But maybe in closing, I think there's something I really want to acknowledge and recognize here, that we all sit here today, and we prosper and we do well, but we prosper from the hard work of others. And those people are the people that are currently on shift at our mines and mills, the people that are home right now, either resting to come on night shift tonight, or those that are home resting, waiting to come back on their next rotation on their shift. They're what really creates the value. They can replace all of us, but we need those people. And the other part of it, we got to really focus, and it should be core in everything we do. Not only do we respect them and treat them with the respect that they deserve, but we also look out for their safety, because we want everybody to come home safe. And then maybe there's one final shot I'll share with you, and it directly affects the values and the way we approach resource development. And it's something I learned from former Chief Walter Navo of the Mccoy First Nation in Northern Ontario. And I had known Walter for quite some time, and one day we were doing discussion on the impacts and benefits agreement. And I was walking with Walter back to the car. It's cold. It was wintertime. It was cold, but he stopped to talk to me. He said, I want to just make sure you fully understand what I'm talking to you when I'm talking to you about the stakeholders' interest in what we do. He said the stakeholders they're not just the elders and the other people of our community. The stakeholders also include the water, the rocks, the trees, the birds, the animals, the insects, and the air. And what he said was, this is not the land of the people. We are the people of the land, and so we have to respect and understand what we're doing in terms of how we develop and how we deal with these lands. We share this place. So anyway, I'd like to once again thank the Melbourne Mining Club for having me here today. Also, I'll thank all of you taking the time to listen and hear about Kirkland Lake Gold. And hopefully it's been interesting. Maybe you want to find out more, and maybe you want to invest in the company. But we've come a long way. There's a lot more to come. So, look at all the progress we have. It's going to continue to be much more exciting. So thank you.
Well done. Congratulations. We might miss the Q&A for the round of the Thank you very much, Tony. It was such a fulsome presentation, and I think the impression we got was a tremendous professional. So I think without further ado, I might ask Patrick Smith to please come up to the stage and give the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Tony. A key takeaway for me is the virtue of high grade. Conversations about mining operations with medium grade or low grade are commonly around volume and achieving economies of scale. But grade is king. And from this grade, Kirkland Lake Gold is reaping the return on its investment. An investment that stems from the confidence to acquire, to explore, and to develop in Victoria's historic goldfields. Members and guests, please join me in thanking Tony Makuch.
Oh, I have one, but mine's in my toolbox.
Okay, let's see.
Excellent.
I'll keep
Okay,
going.
good. Thank you.
Well done, Tony. I think he's seen one of these before somehow. Okay, now, members and guests, each year we give away club funds to mining education programs of AusIMM and the Minerals Council of Australia. Please welcome to the stage the Chairman of the Melbourne Mining Club, Richard Morrow.